Welcome, Lund loyalists, to the John Lund Unleashed Warriors post-game show. Shout out to those watching on YouTube, on the John Lund Unleashed and Bay Area Sports collective channels, viewers on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and Lundos listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. John Lund Unleashed, brought to you by 𝐟𝐸𝐵𝐿 Sports Medicine. Got pain? Check out our revolutionary stem cell treatments and guys. If low T is bringing you down, 𝐟𝐸𝐵𝐿 Sports Medicine can put you back in the game. Now with the scoop on the Warriors, here's Johnny.
117-110, the Warriors lose to go down 3-1. Welcome. Everything in flames. Series over. Sure seems like it. There's sad Draymond right there. If you're listening on the podcast, like, what are you talking about? 117-110, Warriors lose. That means they go down 3-1. And I said they just needed to win one of these games against Minnesota so they could give Steph Curry a chance. Best case scenario I saw was down 3-2 with 2 left in this thing. And Steph Curry could come back in a game 6 at home. They could tie it, potentially go to Minnesota for game 7, but they could not pull one out at home. Their better chance was game 3 back at Chase Center tonight. They just didn't have it. Jimmy Butler did not have it. He didn't have enough energy. I certainly questioned why Steve Kerr would take him out in the second quarter and save him for the second half when there was no second half to be saved. But you could tell that Jimmy Butler was just tired, and I think that Steve Kerr saw that. So he just took 9 shots and scored 14 points. We'll go over the chalkboard tonight, but essentially this game was won and lost in the third quarter. It was the Anthony Edwards show, and I told you this morning in the show at 8 a.m. on John Lund Unleashed on a regular show, which we do Monday through Friday, that I was starting to get nervous because from a Warriors perspective, because Anthony Edwards was really turning on specifically in second halves, and he was just getting hot and getting confident more so. And when you see that from him, he's driving to the basket, he's shooting threes, he's always got that green light from 3, and of course he made the most threes, took the most threes, but it kind of been relatively tame by his terms in the first 2 games. And in the last 2 games, he's absolutely dominated. Julius Randle has been great at a triple-double. The other night, he finished with, 31 tonight? I mean, it was just absolutely unbelievable tonight was Julius Randle. He led him in scoring with 31. Edwards had 30, but he had 16 of those 30 in the third quarter. 39-17, they outscored the Warriors in the third quarter of this game. That's where everything was won and lost. Minnesota went 15 of 23 in that quarter, 6 of 12 from 3. The Warriors went 7 of 19 and 0 of 6 from 3. So they were outscored by 18 behind the three-point line. In the third quarter, they were outscored by 24 behind the three-point line, 16-8 in the game, and that was another story. So we'll get out to your thoughts. Hit us up in the comment line. Give me your thoughts on the series, on what they can do, what they should do, possibly talking about the offseason already. They just could not survive without Steph. That's what this series came down to, and to be honest and to be truthful to the Timberwolves, they don't win this series even with Steph. I just don't think so. I just think there are too many holes. I think there are too much size advantages, too many things that the Wolves do as far as the series matchup is concerned that the Warriors just have no answer for. And in the offseason, they'll probably move KUMINGA, who had 23 points and played really, really well tonight. Again, and I'll say it, it's malpractice by the Warriors that they just decided to play him now. And I know what the analytics say, and I know what they can't play with this guy, can't play with that guy. He doesn't spread the floor. I understand all those things. I get it. I know NBA basketball. But it's just malpractice. In fact, Dave Pasch, who was calling the game with Tim Legler on ESPN tonight, was going, "Hey, Tim, you ever seen anybody come off the bench and just be this effective?" And it's like, have you not been watching? I mean, when the guy's given opportunities, he produces. So they'll trade him for a big in the offseason because it's so glaring that every team just attacks them and they just don't have any answer. And whether it's Looney, whether it's Green, whatever the case may be. And then, I hate this excuse, but they just look gassed. They gave him everything they had, I think, in game 3. And just not enough guys are stepping up. Pods can't throw it in the ocean again. I don't know why Moses Moody's in the game ever. I know they put some guys in the game late. You can maybe question it. Kerr pulled the plug a little bit too early. I don't think so. They just weren't getting it done. But with no Curry to shoulder some of the load, Jimmy's getting tired. Draymond Green's getting tired of playing the 5, being so undersized. He was beat up in the Houston series. He's getting beat up in this series. I'm not saying he's not playing good defense, and he had a couple of shots tonight, but not enough guys are hitting shots. Buddy Hield was never going to be Steph Curry, even though in that game one when Steph got hurt, he was great in the second half, scoring 22 of his 24, but he just couldn't hold that up for the whole series. Moody can't throw it in the ocean. Pods can't throw it in the ocean, and wasn't contributing in any other way. But I guess Steve Kerr doesn't think he has any other alternatives because he played 33 minutes tonight, went 3 of 14, 0 of 4, same old story. And tonight only grabbed, 3 boards, one assist. I mean, he was just atrocious. Tonight was 𝐃𝐨𝐽, but remember, he's untouchable. Gary Payton has added very little in this series. I would like to have seen some changeup when Anthony Edwards was absolutely going bananas in the third quarter. It was mostly getting switches to where Buddy Hield was on him. And if Buddy Hield's not hitting, what would you say you do here? Might as well put a defender on Anthony Edwards and try to cool him off, maybe change it up a little bit. Steve Kerr didn't do any of those things. So I thought from pretty much everyone's perspective outside of Jonathan Kuminga, everybody else pretty much sucked. I mean, Draymond Green was okay. I will say that. But, the shooters like Hield and 𝐃𝐽 were terrible. Payton not really given a chance in this series. Kuminga was great. There's no doubt. Looney in the first half had 8 boards. He was pretty good, but they just got outplayed, outclassed, and without Steph Curry on the floor, they have no chance in the series. Sorry to be so pessimistic, but that's pretty much what's going on. 117-110, and it wasn't that close. 3-1 series isn't going down the chalkboard. The Edwards show, adjustments. That's what I talked about when he was just white hot in the third quarter. I don't know. Maybe somebody else besides getting Buddy Hield on a switch who he was just kind of laughing at. Third quarter, 39-17. That was the difference. 3-ball on the night, 16-8 in favor of Minnesota. 8 times 3, 24. Minus 24 on threes. They didn't hit one from the 4:49 mark of the second quarter to late in the fourth when the game was over. Starters, as I told you, and the starters for the Warriors tonight, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, TJD, Buddy Hield, and Brandon 𝐼𝐴𝐽. 90-57 were the starters outscored tonight. 𝐬𝐝, though, again, he scores 23. Tired Jimmy, just 9 shots, so he was unaggressive Jimmy, like we were talking about. He had to be again tonight. Just didn't have the legs for it. 5 of 9, 14 points. Bad Buddy, Pods bricks. First half, the Warriors actually led this game 60-58, if you can believe that. And the rest of the playoffs, weird playoffs going on. Jason Tatum goes down tonight in a non-contact injury. That did not look good. Boston's down 3-1 to the Knicks, so it looks like the Knicks are going to win that series, especially with the injury to Tatum. And then the Pacers are way up on Cleveland. So who'd have thunk it was going to be a Knicks-Pacers Eastern Conference. And it looks like it's going to be the Timberwolves and either OKC or Denver. They're tied at 2 games apiece in their series. So that's what's going on. Post-game show. Thanks for joining us. Do remember, John Lund Unleashed. We're here for all Warriors post-game shows. We do random night shows too when news breaks. And Monday through Friday, we're here 8 a.m. Pacific time. So make sure you're here or go back and watch the replay, however you want to do it, but just make sure you subscribe, get those alerts on, and please hit the like button for John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, as well as the Bay Area Sports Collective. Tom Tolbert, I'll keep an eye on Tolbert tonight, as I'm sure after he leaves the arena, and let me just put on YouTube here, after he leaves the arena, he will, he'll jump on as well, so we'll have Tolbert's thoughts on this whole thing, but love to get his perspective, but to me, valiant efforts. Steph Curry goes down. They just couldn't win one game, that one game they needed to win to stay in this series. Now, look, could they do it in Minnesota? They could, but they looked gassed at home. Usually you're energetic at home. Guys just aren't, like I said, 𝐃𝐽's not throwing in the ocean. Buddy can't be even a semblance of what Steph Curry brings them. Of course not. Jonathan Kuminga is the only one who's consistent on this team, especially offensively. And then defensively, one thing I just didn't mention was that it was a parade to the basket anytime Minnesota wanted to do it. And it's because, like I said, Draymond Green is just gassed, and that's a bad excuse. But he's been playing the 5 the entire playoffs in the last part of the season, and that's just not what he does. So they need to bring a big to give him a little bit of a break. So that's what happened. By the way, if you missed it, lottery was done before the playoffs started tonight. Dallas, with a 1.8% chance, wins the lottery. Sure, sports isn't rigged. Nico Harrison does the NBA a solid by trading Luka Doncic to the Lakers. Thank you, Dallas. In return, we'll give you the number 1 pick, even though you had a 1.8% chance to get it. And they'll get Cooper Flagg to go with Anthony Davis and to go with Kyrie Irving. And all of a sudden, Dallas is going to be a pain in the ass in the Western Conference as well. So that's what happened tonight. Warriors, Tatum, Timberwolves dominating, Jason Tatum going down. All those kind of things happened tonight. And I would love to get your thoughts on it all. So let me get up to the top there and welcome everybody. And I'd love to get your thoughts on everything. Again, 117-110, 3-1 series deficit For the Warriors, Baba Booey is here. Skills, great to see you, my friend. The 1-420. Hello, Caesar. It is great to see you. Shrimp Boy, it is always great to see you in the post-game show in any old time. Who else do we have here tonight? PJ2457. PJ, it is great to see you. Darn good to see you here tonight. Thank you so much. Anthony, it is always my pleasure to have you in the room. East Bay, I just said East Bay Caesar, did I not? I probably did, but let's welcome you again. I don't care. The Nutter, it's always great. Butler didn't look too interested. I think he's gassed. He's 35 years old. And unfortunately, I hate to make that excuse because it's a really bad one. Excuses, explanations, that's an excuse, and I made it. Like and subscribe. Thank you, Scott. You are the best. I appreciate it. Fiend, it is good to see you in here tonight. Who else do we have in here tonight? It is great to have everybody. Rico XXX, Enrique, Kenneth. We got everybody here tonight. Very, very cool, man. Questions, comments, thoughts. Is it over? Could they shock us and win one in Minnesota? I don't think so. Yeah, that's a great point at the end there. That was a good call, Skills. When he hit the 30-footer over two defenders to beat the second quarter buzzer, that was the Bear Wolf coming out of hibernation. You could hear that feel the energy change. That's a great call by you because that's the same thing I thought is he hit that thing right before the half, did Anthony Edwards, and they were up in his face, and then that just kind of spurred him to the second half that he had. So, and it was the Anthony Edwards show. He hardly played in the fourth quarter, and he's been great. Julius Randle, who wasn't really fitting in at the beginning of the season for Minnesota, scored 31. Last game, he had a triple-double. Jaden McDaniels has been really good defensively. They've had one player play poorly in this series, and that's Dante DiVincenzo, the former Warrior. He really hasn't done much, but just about everybody that Minnesota puts on the floor has been really good on one end of the floor. You know, and they've had their spurts. Whereas you look at the Warriors, just as a whole in the series, Jonathan Kuminga's been their best player. Buddy Hield's had some moments. Jimmy Butler had one game where he was playoff Jimmy, and that was last game, and that was their best opportunity to win. Tonight, somebody used the word disinterested. I don't know if I would say disinterested. Just he's 35, and he's trying to carry a basketball team, and he can't do it. And, you know, I wish he would have been more aggressive in the playoffs. You're not going to get some of those calls. So the amount of times that Jimmy can get his game together and get some rest at the free throw line, you just don't get those in the playoffs. So you don't get a foul call. You get hit, you run back to the other end. It can get frustrating. Minnesota played at their pace, their energy. They were hitting shots. Everybody was hitting shots for them. And the Warriors, you look at it, the most consistent player is 𝐬𝐿. That's it. Jimmy Butler is contributing at times. Buddy Hield is not that kind of a player. You can't expect him to be even a semblance of what Steph Curry is. He did it for Game 7. He did it for half a game in Game 1. That's about all you can expect of him. Podziemski's been awful. Just flat out awful. And I guess Steve Kerr doesn't trust anybody else with those minutes. I thought this was a must-win, but not must-win. They're not going to go to Minnesota. I don't believe in win, especially without Steph Curry. So unless there's a miraculous hamstring god out there that's going to just go and somehow heal Steph's hamstring and he plays against Minnesota in Game 5, this series is over because not enough guys are playing well. Buddy's everybody's being asked to play a different role because Steph Curry is supposed to be the Batman. Jimmy Butler's supposed to be the Robin. Okay, Jimmy Butler's the Batman. The Robin is Kuminga. Kuminga's the Robin. Okay, he wasn't even in the rotation. After that, who is it? Like, who else is stepping up? Draymond Green at times. It's just tough for him defensively with all of Minnesota's size. I'm not making an excuse for him. That's just a fact. It's not a good series setup for him. Houston was not a good setup series for him because of the length of the size, but that's what the Western Conference has been. I mean, they're not going to win this series, but should they? Oklahoma City's got size and depth. It would be a problem. Denver, obviously, with Jokic, you can't deal with him. He's got size. So you're dealing with everybody in the Western Conference, and the Warriors know in the offseason that's their number one priority, and the number one guy to give it to them is somebody that they don't believe fits in Jonathan Kuminga. And I'll say what I said the other night. It's malpractice that the Warriors haven't figured out a way. It's your job to look at Jonathan Kuminga's skills, there are many, and say, how do we fit this guy in? Because he's too good to not be a rotation player. I mean, like I said, Dave Pasch on the broadcast is like, have you ever seen a player who wasn't in the rotation come into the rotation and be the best player on the floor the last two games? For them, not in total. That player's been Anthony Edwards or Julius Randle, but they're in their right places. So their Batman is Anthony Edwards. Their Robin is Julius Randle. They've got random players playing off those players. The Warriors don't. It's like, hey, buddy, we need 20 from you. Well, that's not happening. He's not scoring 20. Hey, Podziemski, that dude that played in April at the end of April, we need that guy that averaged 17 points and shot 51% from the floor, 48% from three. Remember that guy? End of the year that Lund said was going to, the Warriors could go deep if he played like that. Where's that guy? Because he has no confidence in his shot. Like even when Jaden McDaniels came over and blocked that shot and they initially said it went off the glass and it didn't, Eric, he's not even going to get a layup tonight that he should get. He was missing runners that he normally easily makes. He has zero confidence shooting the ball. And if I'm Steve Kerr, I thought Steve coached a poor game tonight because a few different reasons. Number one, he was resting Jimmy Butler in the second quarter for later. What if there is no later? There was no later tonight. So you you had to win this game tonight. You had to. So he's resting Butler for later, which later never came. Brian Podziemski has no confidence whatsoever in his shot. Do what you did when Kuminga came in. It was like, okay, it's out of necessity because of Steph Curry. Podziemski's not playing well. I know you love the guy. I know that he gets you rebounds. I know he plays scrappy defense. I know he dives on the floor. I know he gets loose ball. Like, I get it. He gets you extra possessions, but you needed somebody to put the ball in the basket tonight. You were minus 24 behind the three-point line tonight. Minus 24 in a game you lost by 7. So you got to try to find some shooting. And I don't like Moody. I think Moody, not personally, just he's not throwing in the ocean. He finally made a shot late. He hadn't made a shot in the series. But you give him 2 minutes and say, can he hit a shot? Okay, he can't. Next. You just got to move on down the line in a game you have to win. Now, he'll coach that way in Minnesota because there is literally no tomorrow, and it really is a must-win game. But he had to coach like that tonight. I didn't think Steve Kerr coached with the correct desperation tonight, the correct sense of urgency tonight. Jimmy Butler's got to play. We have to win. I mean, I'm looking at the let me pop this up for you. I've already looked at the box score, but look at the amount of minutes, even it was a blowout game really till the end. But let me share my screen with you and show you how many minutes the guys for the Timberwolves played, because Chris Finch knew they wanted to bury these guys. They wanted to bury the Warriors. They didn't want to give them any kind of confidence going back, and they don't want Steph Curry back in this series. They know how desperate it is. Look at this: Julius Randle, 40 minutes. Jaden McDaniels, 40 minutes. The only reason that Edwards didn't play that much is because it was a blowout. They took him out at the end of the third quarter because he dominated so much and he hardly played in the fourth quarter. But they had two guys playing 40 minutes. Jimmy played 34, not acceptable. Draymond played 33, not acceptable. Buddy Hield, Brandon Podziemski shouldn't play 33 minutes the way he's playing right now. He can't throw it in the ocean, Buddy Hield was getting crushed, and not only was Buddy Hield not hitting shots, he was getting crushed by Anthony Edwards. The switch was going on to Buddy Hield, and he was getting smoked. Give me somebody. I mean, it worked with Jonathan Kuminga out of necessity, but none of these guys. I mean, Moody hasn't hit a shot. I get it. Santos hasn't hit a shot. I get it, but you got to try somebody. Your season was on the line tonight. It's not must win because you get to play in Minnesota, and who the hell knows? It's the NBA and things can happen. But you had to win this game tonight. And if guys weren't playing well, then you had to yank them. You had to really treat tonight like a game 7. I really thought so. And guys were tired. These guys are tired too. Julius Randle isn't young. He played 40 minutes. Anthony Edwards easily would have played 40 minutes if he had to have. I mean, they don't have a deep bench. Look at these guys. They got 3 guys. They're playing 8 guys. That's it. That's all they're playing. They left their guys in. They're like, we're not going to chance losing this game. Chris Finch played this game like a must-win game. He played 8 guys, not very much, and he played a couple of guys 40 minutes. He's like, I'm not allowing these guys back into this series. No chance. No chance are we letting these guys back into this series. We're going to play this thing like this is a closeout game, and that's exactly what they did. They treated this game totally differently than what the sorry about that. I'm just messing with something. Than what the Warriors did. Chris Finch is like, if we lose this game, there's the potential not the potential. Steph Curry, even if we win the next game, if the Warriors won tonight 2-2, they go back to Minnesota. Minnesota's 3-2, and then you could potentially have Steph Curry for game 6. Chris Finch wanted none of that. So what did he do? Their head coach played it like it was a game 7. What did Steve Kerr do? I'm going to rest Jimmy Butler in the second quarter. I'm going to rest these guys. Oh, well, Podziemski can't throw it in the ocean. He's going to stay in. Like, he's not going to do that in Game 7. In Game 7, if guys aren't playing, he's going to pull them out, and he's going to see if somebody else can play. That's how you play a Game 7. That's how they should have played tonight. He didn't have the proper urgency tonight. Not to me. Could be wrong. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just saying. I don't think he had the proper urgency. You're playing what your goal tonight was. You had to win one, and you lost 2 at home. You're going to go to Minnesota and win without Steph? Your goal was to win one of these 2 at home so that Steph Curry could be back in the series by Game 6, and then all bets are off. So you had to play tonight in a more desperate fashion, and they didn't. Maybe, like I said, maybe Jimmy was tired, maybe this, maybe that. I'm sure Steve is playing the excuses right now. I have not seen the post-game press conference. I'll try to get some of it for you if I can grab it, but I also want to get your thoughts on this whole thing too, because I'm accusing Steve of poor coaching, which I do. I just think of the approach is all I'm saying here. Let's see what else. Let me make sure here. Let me just check my Warrior stuff and see who's on the podium here. You're probably watching as we're talking here. Playoff Jimmy was nowhere to be found. There's Draymond not wanting Steph to rush back. Steve Kerr avoids a hypothetical question about Steph Curry playing Game 5. What else do we have? I mean, I guess he could. Draymond Green starts presser for apologizing, not talking after Game 3. Felt like a coward. I don't care about that. Okay, he hasn't said anything about the approach. I think the approach was poor. He had to play this game like a must-win game, and they didn't. I think that's one of the biggest things that comes out of it. Let's see. I guess, people are asking if Curry could come back. I guess Curry could. I haven't heard anything about it. Should we turn up will you be able to hear this if I pop this up? Let me see.
Game day said, I feel I can go. I want to give it a try. Would he go then, or there's a possibility he would be overruled?
When are we giving the update? Wednesday we'll have an update.
All right, so there you go. There's Tom. Yeah, that was just a video. He's not on there yet. All right, so Steve Kerr totally avoids the question. Look, it's a conversation that they're going to have. We might as well just have it right here. It's a conversation they're going to have because originally what they said was there's going to be an update on Wednesday. Shams Charania of ESPN said that sources he is close to says that Steph Curry won't play till Game 6. A hamstring injury, you can worsen that hamstring injury, but by my logic, and I could be 100% wrong here, by my logic, you could say, well, you have the entire offseason to rehab that injury, so give it a shot. And if you yank it again, we don't love that, but our season is on the line. We traded for Jimmy Butler. We gave Jimmy Butler a contract extension. We thought we can make a run at this thing. And, as you look at this series, not that I think they're going to come back, but you might play Denver, you might play Oklahoma City. Not that I think they could beat those teams, but still, it's weird. And then you look at the Eastern Conference. Like if I'm in the Western Conference, I'm salivating to get to the NBA Finals. It's not that the Knicks aren't good. It's just Boston and Cleveland, the top 2 teams in the East, are going to be out. It's going to be Indiana versus the Knicks, both good teams. And I think the Knicks will probably win that series. And look, Jalen Brunson looks amazing, and Bridges showed up, and Karl Anthony Towns, and OG Anunoby, and the Knicks have a really talented roster. Absolutely. And I thought all season long, like, what are the Knicks doing? They're incredibly talented. They're probably going to come out of the East now, especially with Tatum's injury. But by logic, if I'm coming out of the West, I'm like, all right, I'll play those teams. Boston's out, Cleveland's out. That'd be nice. But it's not going to be easy. I'm just simply saying, I don't think they're going to win the series. But, Steve Kerr didn't say no. I guess that would give you some optimism. Steve Kerr didn't say no. Can Steph Curry save this series? If Steph Curry's playing in Game 5, sure as hell like their chances a lot better than I do right now. And then all of a sudden it comes back here. We're playing a bunch of hypotheticals. I think the series is over. I don't think Steph can play in a Game 5 and how effective he can be with a hamstring. But with the season on the line, I think they're much more apt to play Steph this way, even though they don't want to injure Steph Curry. But like I said, if Steph Curry gets injured, then he's got a whole offseason to rehab it. That would be my logic, but it's probably not the Warriors' logic. What else do we have here? Podziemski, thank you for bringing this stat skills. 37 for 113, 33%. Yeah, that's not good. And you can just tell in his confidence. I said this morning. He did a better job of this tonight. I'm sure that Steve Kerr looked at the film with him and said, stop doing this. But it was, he was dribbling the hell out of the basketball. He was pounding the air out of the ball and then jacking up a 3. by my count and watching the game tonight, he did that twice, taking shots out of context of the offense, but he was doing that all the time the other night. So he didn't do that nearly as much as he had done in the last game. Shimboy says Kuminga is going to be good in Houston. Yeah, I mean, here's something interesting with the Warriors with the way that the lottery went out. I don't know how this thing is going to go down, and could they get a pick? For example, not only did Dallas make out like bandits with a 1.8% chance, and they're going to get Cooper Flagg to put next to Anthony Davis. And look, I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think that they thank the Mavericks for sending Luka to LA, which is what the NBA would want. You know, I did that NBA, Tankathon. I did Tankathon. Go to Tankathon and see how many times it takes you to get Dallas. Just all you got to do is hit it. I did it like 110 times. That's how much of a life I don't have. I hit it like 110 times before I got it to Dallas. I mean, come on, 1.8% chance. They were supposed to get, I think, like the 12th pick or something. You can't tell me the sports isn't rigged. I mean, that's very, 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 very peculiar. But then the other side of it is, this scares the hell out of you. So this is bad for the West. This is bad for the Warriors. Because now Dallas is going to get Cooper Flagg to put with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. That's a good team all of a sudden. San Antonio gets the second pick. And now San Antonio's sitting there going, well, really, we don't need another young player. And after Cooper Flagg, it's kind of a crapshoot. There's a couple of nice guards and so forth. They don't need that. You know, they have Castle. Obviously, they have Victor, but I mean, they have Castle and they have De'Aaron Fox. They got a really good young team. What they would and should do is take that number 2 pick, and you know, is there a chance for 𝐷𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐾𝐿? Is there a chance for Durant? Somebody like that to go to San Antonio? You put some of your young players together, throw on a contract to help it match, and the number 2 pick. Like Phoenix right now, I'm sure is on the phone with San Antonio. They're going to be in a full rebuild with their new owner, Matt Ishbia. And I'm sure that he's going, okay, you give us the number 2 pick. You know, we give you Durant. We make some contracts match, and we got ourselves a deal. Now, if I'm San Antonio, I wouldn't want to go that route because I've got a really young team, and I think I can win a championship. And 𝐷𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐾, to me, makes more sense because he's only 30. So now I've got maybe a 4 to 5 year window. If I got 𝐷𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐾, I can get about a 5-year window with him, Victor, De'Aaron Fox, some of these guys like that. So San Antonio made off well tonight because I think what San Antonio is going to do is they're going to package that 2 pick to somebody, whether it be to Phoenix or to Milwaukee, and they're going to jumpstart those 2 teams, one of those 2 teams, rebuild process. Meanwhile, San Antonio is going to become a terror in the Western Conference. So Dallas got better today in the West. San Antonio today got better in the West. So that's not good. That's not good for the Warriors. So not only do you Steph Curry's hurt, not only look like you're going to get knocked out, Minnesota's better than you, and they're just going to get better. Anthony Edwards isn't at the height of his powers now. So Minnesota's better than you. Dallas might be better than you now. San Antonio is probably better than you. Oklahoma City's on the upswing. See where I'm going here? All of a sudden, you're like, there was a window here. When you got Jimmy Butler, there was a window here where it was like, hey, you know what? This team has some energy. This team has something going on here. Now, all of a sudden, you get beat by Minnesota. Steph gets hurt. You get beat by Minnesota. Dallas gets better. San Antonio gets better. Minnesota's better than you. Oklahoma City's better than you. Houston's on the upswing. I bet Houston in the offseason takes a guy like Jalen Green. Maybe they're the team that makes a run at Durant if San Antonio gets 𝐷𝐻𝐿𝐻𝐾. All of a sudden, 𝐷𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐾's in the Western Conference now. I ain't great. And I think Houston's going to make a move as well. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. They were talking about Devin Booker, but they were saying, well, yeah, we're not interested in Booker anymore. That can change. That can absolutely change. So I think Houston's going to make a run for a veteran. I think that San Antonio is going to make a run for a veteran. Dallas is going to be better. The Western Conference is a bitch. I mean, it is really hard. And this looked like an opportunity before Steph's injury for the Warriors to make a really nice run at this thing. So just a thought. Don't mean to be a downer on top of the downer, but not great. What happened to your background? Did you move? I did not move. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐷s 10. We're doing some remodel, and I will get this thing all fixed up. I apologize for the, I don't know, feels like we're in a doctor's office here, and plus I'm wearing a white hat, so it feels, or kind of a tannish hat. So it feels like I'm in, and I got this white chair, so it feels like I'm in either an insane asylum, which is very possible, or I'm in some sort of like a doctor's office, but I'm not, I promise. We're just doing some work behind me. That's all we're doing. So no, even though it's odd, and I agree with you, 𝐬𝐻𝐫𝐷s. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢𝑛𝐻. By the way, my son's a Sun Devil. He probably would hate him. But anyway, there you go. But yeah, that's all. That's all. Just doing some remodeling. We will be doing a whole new background very, 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 very soon. I don't agree. I don't disagree with you on Durant is poison. I wouldn't take Durant. I'm just saying there's a team like Houston saying, let's, you get owners involved in this kind of stuff, and they say, I want Kevin Durant. Jalen Green sucked in the playoffs. Now, if I'm Houston, I'm a pretty good team. Like, would I like to add – now, look, would I like to add 30-year-old 𝐷𝐵𝐷𝐼𝐶𝐾? I would. Do I want to add Durant, what's Durant, 35, 36? And because of his body type, he's just being injured a lot. And look, I'm not saying anything bad about Kevin Durant. If I could get him for very little to add to my team, I would. But I don't think Kevin Durant's the kind of guy that he was maybe a couple of years ago, that you look at the situation with Durant and go, he's going to put you over the top. He might. I mean, would Houston be better? Let's say it's Jalen Green. They got to give something up to match a contract, some picks, whatever the case may be, because Durant's getting traded from Phoenix. And so all of a sudden now, Houston's got Durant, and the main piece that they lost is Jalen Green. And all of a sudden they're Durant, 𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐽, Amen Thompson. I mean, Fred Van Fleet. I mean, that'd be nasty. Van Fleet would probably go the other way to make contracts match now that I think about it. But still, if their big three was like 𝐿𝐮𝐽, Amen Thompson, and Kevin Durant, yeah, that would be a problem. And if San Antonio's big three was Victor Wembanyama and Giannis Antetokounmpo and De'Aaron Fox and some of the youth, I mean, they'd have to, obviously trade some of the youth and probably trade that second overall pick, which they wouldn't mind doing, to get 30-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then all of a sudden San Antonio, like I said, I hate to go down this road right now because it just, it's like you lose 117, 110. Anthony Edwards literally puts his hand in your chest, Draymond Green, and rips it out. And now I'm going, hey, and you know what? The rest of the Western Conference is going to be a mother next year, even worse. So you're like, oh, thanks, Lund. Really helping me feel good. Yeah, come on, that's a setup to me, man. That is a complete setup. Call me a conspiracy theorist. Hey, Nico, thank you for trading Luka to the Lakers and to LA into a major market, and the Lakers needed it because they're going to be losing LeBron soon. So I'll tell you what, we'll give you the first pick, and you can get Cooper Flag. Yeah, that's the way I see it, but I could be wrong. Again, tonight's game, if you want a recap of it, 39-17 in the third quarter. There's only really a couple of things. 39-17 in the third quarter. That was the thing that did in the Warriors tonight. 39-17. And the other thing is third quarter. I mean, the third quarter was absolutely the three-point ball. 24 plus 24 is what San Antonio was. And again, I popped up the box score just a minute ago, and you could see that. So if you want me to do it again, I will. But there you go. I knew we'd get these. Hello, Feed. Trade pods for a year supply of Pupas. Yeah, he's not good right now. He's not good. Renovations. What is it? You're going to be on Renovation Realities. Yeah, I would like that. You know who was on that? What was it called? It was some kind of a curb appeal show or something like that. But Dan Dibley was on it. It was like a curb appeal or something like that. Dibbs was actually on that, and he's been on Wheel of Fortune. I have to be on one of those shows. I need to renovate. But yeah, we're doing some renovations, and I want to make the background look better. I mean, it was kind of janky with like the shelves I had and everything like that. I have a lot of cool stuff. I kind of felt it was janky and I could do better. And so we're doing some stuff like that. That's all. But I haven't moved or anything like that. We're still in the same studio. I just got to do a better job with the background. And we're kind of working on some stuff like that. So essentially what happened was I was in Vegas, and then I was in Phoenix, and then I came back to the studio, and everybody's like, what happened? But we're still in the studio, I promise. This is the same chair. You can see the shadow of my TV. We're still in the same place. That's all. It's over. Yeah, I tend to agree with you, man. Could there be a miracle Steph? I mean, that's really the only thing that could save him. But how realistic, honestly, is it that Steph comes back at the age of 37? His hamstring is A-OK. And, he drops in like 30, and everybody can kind of get back into their pecking order for the Warriors and kind of do what they do. Okay, Jimmy's back, Jimmy's Robin again, Curry's Batman. Everybody kind of fits back into their roles. It's not as critical if some guys are missing shots because Steph is the ultimate deodorant, right? Steph just, he kind of covers up a lot of the stench. But is Steph going to stop all the defensive lapses like we saw tonight? I I mean, they rolled to the basket anytime they wanted. Anthony Edwards, I will give him credit. He made a lot of tough threes. But Edwards, it was the Anthony Edwards show. I mean, I say this all the time. Sometimes you do have to give credit to somebody else and not just blame your own guys. Like I didn't think Kerr coached with the right sense of urgency, but 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜 was not good again. I would have played him less minutes. Having Jimmy Butler rest in the second quarter, maybe Jimmy told him he was gassed, but you're saving him for later when there was no later. And I thought you should have. You look at Chris Finch, who played a couple of his players 40 minutes, even though it was a blowout tonight. They played with a sense of urgency to say, I don't want to see Steph Curry in this series. Because if the Warriors had tied this series at 2-2, Minnesota wins the next one, it's 3-2, and then Steph Curry, people are saying, could be back for game 6. And then all of a sudden, Steph Curry's back in the series. So Minnesota played this game tonight as we don't want to see Steph Curry, and this game is as important to us, even though we're up 2-1, if not more so, because we don't want to see Steph Curry in this series. So that was kind of the whole thing. What's going on, Bay Area? Hey, that's our good friend Dom right there. Bay Area Sports Collective. Tommy is going to be jumping on later. I know he was at the arena because I just saw a video from him. And so let me just check out. Let me just make sure that he's not on yet because I'm just being kind of like a warm-up band or something and just giving you my thoughts on everything. But I am going to defer to Tom when he jumps on, which could be a while because the other night I was on, I don't know, maybe $1:15, $1:30 because I just want to pop in a little bit and say hello to you guys on a postgame show. And Tom didn't go for a while. I know that. So let me just double check to make sure what's going on here and make sure that why am I getting travel hotels? I'm not traveling anywhere. What is that about? What's going on here? It's just craziness. All right. No, I don't see anything. I don't see anything there. Let me make sure. We're going to Bay Area Sports Collective. Sorry. I'm doing a little bit of on-air stuff here. Where is it? Hold on. His show is not coming up, so you guys can probably do this faster than me. Here we go. Let's see what's going on with Tom. Okay, he just did a quick recap, and he's going to be on later, right? Scheduled for tonight. There you go. Okay, let me pop on Tom's show. So he says 11:30. 11:30. What do we got? 10:55. All right, he's going to be on at 11:30. So that's what we got going on. All right, give me some questions, your comments, your thoughts. The Warriors lose tonight to the Timberwolves, down 3-1. Here's a few questions that you can answer tonight. Is the series over? 3-1. Is it over? Is it over if Steph Curry returns down 3-1? Let's say Steph, miraculous recovery. Do you give them any chance if they come back with this one? What would you like to see? We can talk about this already. Offseason things, it's going to be size. How sad will you be if when Jonathan Kuminga leaves? Because even though he's played so well in this series, I still think the Warriors are going to huddle at the end of the year and go, okay, we need to get – and I played these highlights this morning of Miles Turner. They were up, 80-39 at the half on Cleveland. And that last 2-minute stretch was just Miles Turner just boom, 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 hitting 3. And you see tonight, Draymond Green can't play the 5 long term. He's already gassed. Jimmy Butler trying to be Batman is gassed. You're seeing these kind of things. So the size of Minnesota is giving them so much trouble, just like the size of Houston gave them so much trouble. That's a major part of this whole thing. So what do they got to do in the offseason? They got to go get a big. How are they going to get that big? They're probably going to use, somebody they're going to use Kuminga, I think, to do it. A lot of people in this morning were asking me about Giannis because that came out that Shams Charania came out and said that for the first time in his career, Giannis is thinking that, maybe this isn't the best place for me to be. Giannis has always been connected to the Warriors. So people are like, well, what do you think of Giannis to the Warriors? And I'm thinking, okay, I just told you, I think San Antonio getting the number 2 overall pick in the draft, and they have 14, by the way, and they could give that one up just as easily. They don't need more young players. I think that San Antonio's in the driver's seat to get Giannis because I think that they could give up 2. They could give up 14 in the draft. They could match salaries. They got a couple other young players that they could give up. There's probably some ones they don't want to give up, but when you're talking about a big 3 of Victor Wembanyama and Giannis Antetokounmpo and De'Aaron Fox, you're going to be a major factor in the Western Conference. And then they keep some of the younger players, but they've got so many young players on their roster that they can afford to move a couple of the guys like that. So San Antonio is probably in the driver's seat to me if they want to be. I don't know if they want to be, But if they want to be, I think they'd be in the driver's seat for Giannis. What could the Warriors offer? I mean, they don't have a first-round pick this year. That's a problem. All these teams want picks. Jonathan Kuminga would be a starter. You'd probably have to move Jimmy Butler. But again, if I'm Milwaukee and I'm moving Giannis, do I want to move Giannis? Because the only reason I'm saying that is because you got to match salaries. So I want a 35-year-old Jimmy Butler for a 30-year-old Giannis, and I get Kuminga, and I don't get a pick next year. And they don't have enough. They don't have enough to bring a Giannis on board. The best that they can hope for is that Kuminga can get him a big. I think Miles Turner is probably the best they can do. Like I said, watching his shooting, if you add Miles Turner to Jimmy Butler's mid-range game and to what Steph Curry does, and hopefully this isn't the 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻 that they're hoping for. The one saving grace is I don't know that anybody's going to be asking for 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻 in the offseason like they were last offseason. I don't love Lauri Markkanen, but he was going to be a stretch big for them. And in the offseason, the Warriors were saying, or at least the reports were, that Brandon 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻's untouchable. I never thought that. I don't think anybody in sports is untouchable, because if you give me enough, I'll trade Steph Curry. If you give me enough, I'll trade LeBron James. If you give me enough, now the young players, if you give me enough, I don't know if you could give me enough to trade Anthony Edwards. Maybe you could. But if Luka Doncic can be traded, I think probably anybody can be traded in the NBA. So I don't believe in untouchables, but in terms of Brandon 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻, the way he's playing in this series, it's unfortunate because he's going to get a bunch of grief after this, and he does a lot of different things. But when Steph Curry goes down, and this was happening before Curry went down, remember, he had a 26-point game against Houston, and then he's been absolutely atrocious since then as far as shooting the basketball. He might be one of those guys that's just trying too hard, that's putting too much pressure on himself, that's thinking, I got to be the guy that, now that Steph Curry's gone, or whatever the case may be. I don't think Buddy Hield's missing shots because he's putting too much pressure on himself. I think Buddy Hield's just limited, and he gets hot and he gets cold. And Moses Moody's we've talked about Moses Moody. Moses Moody is just not a fit in these two series. He's not big enough. He's not long enough. He's not athletic enough. He's a nice player who doesn't make mistakes, but that's the best thing I can say about him. And he can shoot it sometimes, but he can't throw it in the ocean in this series. Buddy Hield's inconsistent. 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻 can't throw it in the ocean. Offensively, they're limited. And then tonight, defense, especially in that third quarter, giving up 39 points to the Timberwolves, they just got anywhere they wanted. So we could nitpick at a lot of different things in this game tonight. Bottom line is, especially without Steph Curry, Minnesota's just better. And I can certainly make the case that Minnesota's just better, period. And even if Steph were to come back in Game 5, I'd still say Minnesota probably wins, because is Steph Curry going to come back and play, 38 minutes and score 35 points? I mean, he might come back in a limited fashion and play, 22, 25 minutes on that thing, and maybe he could give him 18 or 20. That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool. What else? Kerr said without Curry, everybody's shot is difficult. No doubt. He is the biggest changer of offense in all of the league right now. There is not a player, we all know this, but I'm just going to reiterate it. There's not a player that has watched more. There's not a player that tilts the court more. There's not a player who makes the game easier on his teammates than Curry. But I would say that even with him on the floor, 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻's missing shots. Even without him on the floor, Moody was missing shots. He certainly makes things easier. There's no doubt about it. I mean, 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐽𝐻, that's the thing was frustrating me about him, is he was getting shots that were not even contested at all. And when Buddy Hield was scoring in the Houston game when he scored the 33, he was wide open, because you can't put that kind of pressure on him. Now, if you watch Buddy Hield play, he gets very little room. He's getting bumped. He's being grabbed. He's being grasped. It's just like what everybody's done in the playoffs. And now they don't want Buddy Hield to get going. They know that, because they're thinking early in the game, if Buddy Hield hits a couple, we don't want that to happen. So now they can play everybody straight up. I mean, obviously things are, he changes the game more than anybody else in the league offensively. I mean, that's just what it is everybody has their eye on him. Everybody's told, double him, grab him, bump him. And they changed the series considerably. In fact, in the Houston series, I can't remember the situation, but I just remember Ime Udoka. It was after he got hurt, obviously. It was after he got hurt, and he was asked about, they ended up winning the game still, but he asked about, how Steph changes the game or something. And Udoka just kind of smiled and went, yeah, it's a lot different. Just like, duh. Yeah, it's a lot different. So yeah, no doubt about it. It's, it's the biggest change offensively that you can possibly have. I don't think there's any question about it. let's see. Is there any out there in the NBA like Andrew Bogut? I wonder what Bogut's saying. I got to tune into his podcast. He's the best, man. Yeah, no doubt. You're not getting Miles Turner. He's a free agent. That's all I would say. He's a free agent, and that's going to be Miles Turner's decision to where he goes. Will he stay in Indiana? Maybe. Miles Turner is, just would depend on how much the Warriors are going to shell out. If you're going to pay the most, I mean, a lot of people would say that's who they want and that's who they need, and his name's been bandied about for a long time in Warriors circles because I don't think they're getting Giannis. They just don't have enough. San Antonio's got a ton of firepower now to go out and get Giannis. As far as Miles Turner is concerned, like a lot of guys, it's going to come down to how much you're willing to pay. So in the offseason, all right, you're going to trade Jonathan Kuminga. That's a foregone conclusion. And they're going to use Jonathan Kuminga to get a big. And they're going to go to 𝐬𝐫𝐫𝐿akeUp and they're going to say, hey, man, with the Jimmy Butler deal, you're already back in the luxury tax. You're going to be writing a great big check. Would you like to do it again? Because obviously we don't have size, and Miles Turner's out there, and he's a big who can play defense, block shots. He's not a great rebounder, but he's a good shot blocker. He's a hell of a three-point shooter. He's a stretch big like you need. He would be the perfect one, even though it seems like he should be 42 years old because he's been in the league so long. He's only 27. He was drafted in 2015. Unbelievable that he's still the age that he is, but he's in the prime of his career, so it makes a lot of sense. And what I would try to convince 𝐬𝐫𝐫𝐿akeUp is you already made the commitment to Jimmy. You're already in this thing. We only have one direction to go. We're not going to a youth thing. We're not trying to do two-way. We're not trying to do this and do that. And you've already committed to Jimmy, so you're already in this thing. What do you say about trying to give Miles Turner a big fat contract? And then we go, Jonathan Kuminga's the centerpiece, future picks, all these kind of things. Where I would agree with you on that thought is they may not have enough and probably don't have enough to get Miles Turner from Indiana. Because here's Indiana, by the way, who's on the verge of going to 2 consecutive Eastern Conference finals. I think the Knicks will probably beat them once they get there. But Indiana's going to go to Miles Turner and go, well, first of all, you're under our control, so we can give you the most years and the most money. Why would you want to go to Golden State and pay 13.3% sales tax and this, that, and the other? So it's the only way that Miles Turner gets here is if Miles Turner wants to be here, which is, look, I'm not signing with the Indiana. Do a sign and trade with somebody, because if I'm Indiana, I don't want to move Miles Turner, still in the prime of his career. Tyrese Halliburton, Mathurin. I mean, they've got a number of different players on that team, and they're a pretty good team. Obviously, Pascal Siakam, they're underrated. And so they can give them the most money in the most years. And so unless Indiana's going to be cheap about it, or unless Miles Turner for years and years and years has wanted to join the Warriors, and that's the only way it would happen is if they did some sort of a sign and trade with the Warriors. Miles Turner wanted to go there, and they went the other way, and they were somehow intrigued with Jonathan Kuminga, which it would seem to me that they've got Mathurin, they've got Pascal Siakam. It certainly wouldn't seem like it would make a whole heck of a lot of sense to add Kuminga to that core, because it already seems like they've already got that kind of a player on their team, or that size of a player on their team. So, yeah, the match off the top of my head doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, but things happen in the offseason. And if it's not Miles Turner, then they're going to look at other guys. Naz Reid is a guy. He's not the defender that Turner is, but Naz Reid is a stretch big. Bobby Portis is okay from 3, but again, he gives you a little bit of size. He's possible. I mean, there's a number of guys out there. I'm sure people will bring up Lauri Markkanen's name this year. He had a lot of injuries, wasn't very good with the Jazz, but I can see that getting revisited. The Jazz got ripped by, if somebody moves up like Dallas, somebody's got to move down. And the teams who had the 14% chance to get in there, Utah, they've never had the number 1 pick. They got 5. Washington got screwed today. Some of those teams, to be honest, I don't love the lottery. Utah's really bad. Washington's really bad. I mean, I get it. The NBA is like, well, we don't want teams to tank. Yeah, but do you want teams like Dallas who have a 1.8% chance? They went to the playoffs. You want Dallas with a 1.8% chance to get the top pick in the draft? Does that seem fair? It doesn't to me. And then, like I said, if I'm a Warriors fan today, great. Cooper Flagg, the best player who's come out in a while, he's going to be the number 1 pick. Dallas is going to get him next to Anthony Edwards and Kyrie Irving. All of a sudden, that's a playoff team. San Antonio gets the number 2 pick. All of a sudden, they're a title contender, especially if they make a move. Like I said, they're a title contender if they get Giannis, and I think they're the leading team to get him. Now that they have the 2nd and the 14th pick, some of the young players they have, I think they're going to do that. I think they're going to make that move. Houston is going to, I think, make a move possibly for Durant. So all of a sudden now you've got those 3 teams, and they just jumped up their firepower. The Warriors have to be aggressive. Joe Lacob has already made his mind up, because the minute he said okay on a contract extension for Jimmy Butler, that meant that the Warriors were back in the deep end of the pool and they were going to be paying money. That's just how it is. That's how they already made the decision. So if I'm Mike Dunleavy and I'm, that whole group, and it's not just Joe's decision, but he rubber stamps when it comes to the finances. He rubber stamps it all. And I would go to Joe Lacob and I would say, hey, man, we already kind of made the decision when we extended Jimmy Butler, so we can't stop now, because clearly we saw in the Houston series, Steven Adams especially was just killing him. I mean, it wasn't only Şengün down low, but it was, it was the rebounding ability of Steven Adams. And in this series, it's been, whether it's been Gobert or Randall or McDaniels or anybody, size has given him a ton of trouble. So they got to go out and get somebody. I'm just saying Miles Turner is the best fit. Whether they could get him because A, he wouldn't want to come here, or B, they don't have the firepower to trade back to Indiana because Turner, like I said, is a free agent. Yeah, no doubt. It's probably unlikely. Just say lottery. Yeah, I did say the lottery's fixed 100%. I think the lottery's completely fixed. I think that the NBA said, you got Luka to LA. Thank you very much. Here's a twist to the plot. Nico Harrison, who's been ripped mercilessly left and right, you get the number 1 pick in the draft. 1.8%. I'm telling you, go to Tankathon, and you can do Tankathon for the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. Go to Tankathon. It literally took me like a half hour of just hitting it, and it finally got Dallas. I don't believe at all that was on the up and up. I don't believe it at all. And if I'm if I'm a Utah fan, if I'm a Washington fan, I'm like, come on, man. We're terrible. Like, really terrible. They've got, if they need to draft, they don't have a first round pick, right? They don't have a first round pick. It's going to Miami, right? Yeah, he reminds me of Eddie D. I mean, he'll do whatever he can. Believe me, I think he was at the edge of it. I think he was at the end of his rope as far as spending money. And then I told you this because I've said this 500 times, and it's the truth. I know it to be the truth, that Jimmy Butler was going to the Suns, and they couldn't work out a deal because Bradley Beal said no. And he's one of 2 players with a no trade in the NBA. LeBron's the other. And then so Jimmy went to the Warriors and said, okay, you have a contract extension for me, because the Warriors worked out a trade with Miami. And the Warriors said, no, we don't have a trade. We don't have an extension for you. And he said, don't want to play there. Said, I want to play in Phoenix, because Phoenix had an extension. They didn't have a trade because Beal said no. Warriors then went back and said, fine, we'll give you the extension. So once Joe made that decision, then Joe's back in the lottery, or excuse me, in the luxury taxes, and the big number of luxury taxes over the second line. And now he has no choice but now go after a big, because now you're back in trying to win this thing. And as I said, I don't mean to be depressing to Warriors fans, but Dallas got better. San Antonio got better. Houston's going to get better in the offseason. Minnesota, Anthony Edwards isn't even at his pinnacle yet. Like, that's scary to think of. So in Oklahoma City, they're going to get better. They're not going to get worse. They're going to get better. It's going to be tough, man. Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama. Wembanyama. Enter the coupon and Wembanyama. Yeah, who's calling San Antonio Spurs games? That's gonna be rough, man. What else do we got? For anybody questioning whether they're going to trade Kuminga, they're trading Kuminga. How else are they going to get size? And they've already said he doesn't fit. Now look, would I do it? No. And I said this morning. I've said this throughout this whole thing. It's malpractice at the way they've not utilized him, because I get it. He doesn't fit. I get it. He doesn't space the floor. I get it. He's redundant somewhat with Jimmy Butler. I understand all those things. But when you have a really talented player, and he is a really talented player, like I said, he scored an easy 30 the other night. There is such a thing. He scored 23 tonight. The guy has talent. He's got incredible athletic ability, got to the rim a ton. He had a spin move tonight on, what was that, Randall? I mean, he would have jammed the thing. It would have been crazy. So, look, the guy's a really talented young player. At times, I know this to be a fact, he's been a pain in the ass. He's been a difficult guy to coach. He has been great behind the scenes. He has bouts of arrogance. He wasn't ready to in the Houston series, but you know what? You can't say anything negative about him in this series. He's been ready to play. I'm sure it wasn't easy. When I was 23 years old, would I be able to do the things that Jonathan Kuminga is doing? I'm not talking from a basketball standpoint because I'm about as non-athletic as they come. But what I'm saying is from a mental standpoint to say, I'm going to be ready. This series, I'm going to be ready. And the minute Steph went down, he knew they're going to count on me for offense. There is now an opening for an offensive player on this team, and I'm going to fill that, and I'm going to show the other teams in the league what I'm all about. It's not going to change the Warriors' viewpoint on him. It's not going to make 𝐬𝐝𝐽, who's the ultimate decision maker, want to spend, I don't know, $150 to $200 million on Jonathan Kuminga. It's not going to change his mind. They're going to trade him for a big because the most obvious and glaring thing in these playoffs, whether it be the Houston series or the Minnesota series, is that they just don't have enough size. And as much as we can speculate about this, I don't think they win this series even with Steph Curry because I just don't think that they had enough size to deal with it. And as I keep pointing out, sometimes you got to say the other team was good. And Anthony Edwards tonight in that third quarter when he scored 16 of their 39 was just really, really good. So you got to give him credit for that. Let's see what else. He does have hops. Yeah, there was a couple of times tonight where they stopped him from launching, but plus, he's getting better out on the perimeter and driving to the rim. He's always been able to do that, but he's getting to the point where he's got the spin moves and he's really doing some things. Did a couple of nice things tonight, and I've talked about this in the entire series. You got to bring Rudy Gobert out, and they really haven't done that. And you do that with the mid-range game. You get him out more than he's comfortable in going out. And what that does is, Kuminga did it a couple of times. You can shoot right over him. You can also, because he doesn't obviously move, he's a 7'2" guy. He moves okay for a 7'2" guy, but then it opens up for lobs behind him, all sorts of things, which, again, TJD didn't play a ton of minutes tonight. They did play Looney, who had 8 rebounds in the first half and did a nice job as well, but just not enough. They're not exposing Rudy Gobert like they've done in the past. And he's having a decent series. He's having a good series. He wasn't great in the first half. It was better in the second half tonight. So there is that. Who else do we have in the house tonight? Fred, it's good to see you. I'm just zipping through some of the questions and the comments here. Any other thoughts on that? And again, just to kind of reiterate things, 117-110. Warriors lose this thing. Behind the three-point line was huge. They didn't hit a three-point shot from the 4:49 mark of the second quarter till late in the fourth quarter when this game was already finished. Plus 24 behind the three-point line was Minnesota tonight. Anthony Edwards scored 16 of his 30. Julius Randle, if you had to give an MVP to the series, I'd probably give it to Randle, to be honest. He had a triple-double last time out. He had 19 points in the first half and dominated during the first half. And then Anthony Edwards, like I said, 16 of the 39. Warriors couldn't throw it in the ocean. Jimmy Butler looked tired, 5 of 9 tonight, only 14 points. Steve Kerr rested him early. Maybe that was something about Jimmy. Maybe Jimmy said he was early, but when they were talking on the broadcast about it, they're like, yeah, he's saving him for later because he thought he got tired last game. There was no later. You don't do that in a game like this. And if I had a criticism of Steve Kerr tonight, I would say that he didn't coach this game with enough urgency. I don't think he coached it with enough urgency tonight. This was a game 7 type of thing. 2 Timberwolves played 40-plus minutes, even though this was a blowout. The only reason Anthony Edwards didn't play more is because they took him out in his regular rotation at the end of the third quarter, and they were blowing him out so much that Edwards sat for most of the fourth quarter on the bench. So they played this with an urgency of, we don't want to see Steph Curry in Game 6. And had the Warriors won this game, it's 2-2. Even if Minnesota wins on Wednesday, it's 3-2, and they get an opportunity, the Warriors do, to get Steph Curry back in the lineup. The big question will be, and Steve Kerr answered it in the postgame, with looking over to Raymond Ritter, and he said, when's the update? Oh, Wednesday. And then he turned to the report and said, update's Wednesday. He was asked whether Steph would make an appearance in Game 5. And I'm sure they're debating that right now. And in fact, I think we all know Steph Curry well enough at this point. I think Steph Curry is probably debating with them right now. Maybe he's home, but he's still probably on the phone with, with Rick Celebrini or with Steve or with the powers that be. I can play. Put me. I'm going with you guys, and I can play. I still don't know that I still don't know that they win this series with him. And I really don't think, here's the other thing too. I don't think that the Warriors win this series with Steph, and I'm not sure they win game 6 with him and risk the injury. And I realize that he's got the entire offseason to rehab it. So look, if I'm the Warriors in the way that I think, I would play him, but they're not going to risk further injury to to Steph Curry. They're not going to do it. So if they don't feel like he's 100%, they're going to save him from himself. Because I'm sure Steph wants to play, but I don't think the organization would allow it. Does Rod have the similar background as I have? Like I said, I'm just renovating. So I didn't, I don't know what he's got back there, but there you go. What else do we have? Yeah, I don't think they have enough. I don't know who you'd go. What do you get trying to get Bobby Portis? I don't think that they don't have the juice to get Giannis, not with San Antonio getting the second pick in the draft. I don't think so. What else do we got tonight? I think that's probably it, man. What do we got? Tommy at 11:30. What do we got? 11:19. So you got what you can do here is you could get yourself a beverage. Let's see what time we got. 11:19. We can go 10 more minutes. We'll go till 11:30, and then we'll let me jump the box up one more time. We can go through it real quick. Again, 117, 110. Let's pop this up a little bit. And then, like I said, the urgency that the Wolves played with, McDaniel and Randall both play 40 minutes. As I said, Edwards basically sat the whole fourth quarter because his regular rotation was sitting at the end of the third. And they played 𝐷ivincenzo, who's been really the only Wolf who has not played well in this series. Didn't get a lot from Naz Reid. Alexander Walker a little bit. But again, you say they're tired. I get it. But they're playing their guys a lot of minutes. Jimmy Butler, a little bit surprising that he only played the 34 in a game that meant this much, but he did look tired and gassed. That's an excuse. 14 points, only 9 shots, so we needed aggressive Jimmy again tonight. They didn't get that. Draymond hit some shots early, but it was tough for him. Again, too much size, just like it was in the Houston series. Buddy Hield hit some shots later, but again, 4 of 11, 2 of 6. Podziemski can't throw it in the ocean, and you can just tell he lacks confidence. He'll move the ball when he has an open opportunity. He didn't dribble it as much into the ground and take the bad shots off that. I only counted twice that he did that. Gary Payton II hasn't been a factor in the series for the most part. I would have liked to have seen him at times in for Hield when Edwards was on that heater in the third, and it always seemed like they were switching off, and then Hield was on Edwards, and that's just not fair. KUMINGA was the best player on the floor for the second consecutive game for the Warriors. 6 of 13, getting to the line aggressively, real aggressive going to the rim tonight. 11 of 12. 23 points for Jonathan KUMINGA. That's got to feel good for him. Looney had 8 rebounds in the first half. That was his key contribution, and some guys got into the game left. That 4:38 was when they emptied the benches. Moody hit his first shot of the series, if you can believe that. Santos was the one who broke the 3 streak from 4:49 in the second quarter to late in the fourth quarter on that thing, and we even saw lovely Pat Spencer, Kevin Knox, etc. And like I said, you can circle the third quarter right down there. 39-17, they get absolutely eviscerated in the third quarter. That was the biggest thing. Second chance points, which were a big deal. Remember, it was 26-14 last game, plus 12 for the Timberwolves. They do a better job, 14-9 in second chance points, so not as bad in those kind of things. And did I see turnovers in this game? Ooh, not great. 24-15 on turnover points. A lot of those were live ball turnovers too, which led to a Minnesota run out. So again, -9. So you do that kind of thing. I mean, like you said, 16, that's the big stat right there. 16 three-pointers made to 8. So that's an +8. +8 times 3 is 24. So you're +24 in three-point. They're +9 on turnover points. So you start looking at things like that and absolutely killing you. So there you go. And like I said, if you look at Minnesota just as a series, McDaniels has played well in the series. Randall's played out of this world in the series. Gobert's played above average. Anthony Edwards, it's been the Anthony Edwards show a lot of times. Conley at his age isn't playing a ton. 𝐷ivincenzo's been terrible. Reed's been hot and cold. So they don't have anybody where you'd go, they were just terrible. Maybe outside of 𝐷ivincenzo. Butler's in the role of Batman. I'd say one game, obviously the last game Butler was good, not tonight. Draymond Green's had trouble defensively. Hield's been hot and cold. Podziemski's been atrocious. Peyton II just hasn't really fit in the series, and Kuminga's been their best player. So just as a whole, Minnesota has greatly outplayed the Warriors, I think, overall. And the big question becomes, would Steph Curry play if he's less than 100% against Minnesota to try to save the season? I think that would be the biggest question. And again, Steve Kerr deferred and said, no, we'll see. Steve Kerr said, nah, we'll see. So that's what's going on as far as the Warriors are concerned. 3-1 going back to Minnesota. See, that's the whole thing, 420. It's not an injury it's an injury that can get worse. And that's one thing where I think the Warriors will probably say, if it, like I said, it's not a pain tolerance issue. It's not his thumb. It's not any kind of thing like that where it's just, hey, it's a pain tolerance issue. You can play on it. Hamstrings, like you said, is a really tricky thing. He's never had a muscle injury. So that's the other thing too. Let's say that he had one of these injuries before and he kind of knew how it would kind of work out. Then I think Steph might be a little bit more confident playing on it, but you can really mess up a hamstring pretty bad. And then all of a sudden, instead of, here's the other thing maybe the team is thinking, instead of Steph working on conditioning and getting stronger, and remember, he's got all these things he has to do for all these endorsers that he makes money from, all these different things that he does in the summer. Instead of doing what I would call a normal offseason for him, now he's got to rehab a hamstring if he completely rips the thing. Now all of a sudden he's using like the first month of the offseason to, rehab this whole thing. So that's not something the Warriors want to do. It's not something he wants to do. So I doubt that he has a miraculous recovery unless, look, if he feels good, he's going to play. But I don't think he's going to, if he doesn't feel good, I don't think this is something you can push a hamstring. And I don't think the organization will allow it. I think that the doctors would say to themselves, after everything Steph Curry has done for the organization, are we going to put him out there at risk? It's not going to happen. It's just not. So I doubt Steph Curry plays in Game 5, even though it comes down to it at the to save the season Wednesday in Minneapolis. And again, a couple other things going on in the NBA playoffs right now. Western Conference is the only one that is, I don't know, I would say, well, last time it looked, Oklahoma City's getting better and better, the young team. And I said this at the beginning of the playoffs. You got to go through this as a young team, but it's the only competitive series. It's 2-2. This one looks over at 3-1. Knicks beat the Celtics, and now everybody's holding their breath to see what happens with Jason Tatum. That did not look good at the end of that game. And it looked like the Knicks were going to win that game anyway. But with Tatum's injury, and it was a non-contact injury, couldn't put any weight on it. I hope it's not an Achilles or something like that. They rolled him in a wheelchair, and then you could see, I don't know if you saw the video, but he looked really distraught, did Tatum, when they rolled him out of there. He just kind of had his head in his hands, or his face in his hands, when they were wheeling him through the tunnel there. So that's probably not a good sign. They probably told him what they think could be Achilles, with him not, like I said, not being able to put any weight on it. So that series looks like it's over, and the Knicks would move on. And Cleveland, and Spider Mitchell is hurt too. Donovan Mitchell is hurt. They just got blown out by the Pacers. Pacers won the first two games. They split in Cleveland, so they're up 3-1 in that one. So it looks like it's going to be Cleveland and New York in the East, and then the West at Oklahoma City or Denver. This is the worst Jokic has played over the last couple of games than any time I can ever remember in his freaking career since he became Jokic. So that is still a series. This one looks like Minnesota's going to win this series. So we got 3 of the 4 at 3-1. And then if you missed it earlier today, Dallas wins the lotto, and that's not good news for the Warriors. So Dallas looks like they're going to get Cooper Flagg. I think that whole thing is really fishy, but Cooper Flagg goes to Dallas. Add that to Anthony Davis, and add that to Kyrie Irving, and all of a sudden Dallas probably becomes a playoff team. And then San Antonio gets the second pick. I could see Giannis. I could see them putting a package together with all their young players. And Giannis is only 30. And De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama. So all of a sudden you got San Antonio looking like they're going to make a big jump in the Western Conference. Dallas could be back in the playoff picture. That means I think that would put a lot of pressure on Joe Lacob in the offseason to be like, look, San Antonio's jumping up. Dallas is jumping up. It would not surprise me in the slightest if Houston used Jalen Green, for example, as bait to get somebody like Kevin Durant. All of a sudden, Houston's making a move. And then Oklahoma City's still really good. Denver's still in the picture. Denver's got to get some more depth on their team. But Denver's still in the picture. Oklahoma City's on the up. Houston's on the up. San Antonio would be on the up. Dallas would be on the up. It's going to be interesting to see what the Lakers are going to do in the offseason, because I've said this steadfastly from the beginning. And I don't think Luka's making any demands. But remember, Luka is eligible for a contract extension. He's 26 years old. He doesn't have to re-sign with the Lakers. Remember, they made the Dwight Howard trade a number of years ago and everything, so it's a foregone conclusion. Everybody wants to be with the Lakers. No, they don't. Because they made the big trade for Dwight Howard, and he goes, yeah, I'm not down. And he left. And I think that Luke in the offseason, and he won't make it public, but they have two guys that dominate the ball, and he's 26. And I think he's going to probably in one of those meetings say, look, man, you traded for me. I'm the future of this franchise. I want the ball in my hands. And that would mean that they would move LeBron James. So if they're going to move LeBron James, and see, this is what I said this before the Cleveland-Indiana series, I could totally see Cleveland bringing LeBron James home for one last season. Cleveland's got a boatload of talent on their team, and LeBron going to Cleveland and playing there for his final year. Now that would necessitate him taking less money, and that would be an ego hit for him. So I don't know if he would do that, but he's got $1 gazillion. And I just think it would be a cool way for him to end his career. Cleveland's a really, really good team, but clearly they are missing something on the team. And look, they've got the size. They've got guys like Jarrett Allen and Mobley, but the injuries hit them at the wrong time in this series. And now Donovan Mitchell's all banged up, but I could see that. I could see LeBron going to Cleveland, doing one final stand, doing that whole, because his ego is his ego, doing that whole thing where he does that, he does a tour. LeBron is 100% doing a tour. Like, there's no doubt. Like, I'm LeBron James, bring me out your stuff. Like a Derek Jeter final tour, or a Dr. J, or a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They're gonna absolutely do that. So I could see that. So, like I said, I'm looking at the Western Conference. The Lakers are going to be doing some stuff. A bunch of teams are going to be moving around with Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, those kind of things. Naturally, teams getting better, like Oklahoma City. Maybe if they don't win the championship, they'll make a move. Denver needs to make a move for depth. West is going to be a mother again. And some teams just got better today. Dallas got better. San Antonio, I think, is going to make a move. Houston's naturally going to get better. Oklahoma City's going to get better, etc. Be interesting what the Lakers do, Clippers do. They're getting older. What do the Clippers do? It's about time James Harden jumps ship, so maybe he will. Anyway. Oh, by the way, my son, like I told you, is at ASU at the Cronkite School. They had graduation today. He said James Harden was there. He actually talked to him. It's like, yeah, James Harden, ASU guy. He was there supporting. He gave a bunch of money to the basketball program down there too. So there you go. All right, what else do we got? Yeah, they make the lottery like they're trying to make it like the NFL, right? They just they totally just are like, okay, let's make this thing like the NFL. We can't not do it. So anyway, all right, that'll do it. About an hour and 12. That's not bad. 117-110. The Warriors lose tonight, 3-1. We'll be back Wednesday night for a postgame show. Obviously, we'll be back tomorrow. We got a ton to talk about tomorrow, so we'll go more over this game tomorrow for the show. Remember, John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. We're here Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. We're here Saturdays at 10 a.m. We're here for post-game shows for the Warriors when news breaks throughout all the time. We're here for news breaking things, so make sure a few things. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe, have those alerts on, please. That would be great. Give us a thumbs up before you get out of here tonight. We would really appreciate it. That helps the algorithm, helps people find the show, builds the community. We have an awesome community of people, so we want people to make sure that we find the community, so make sure that we do that. And then also Bay Area Sports Collective. So Tommy, it says on his show right here, 11:30, May 13th at 11:30 p.m. He says it says May 13th, but he meant to say May 12th because it says live in 23 hours, and I seriously doubt that Tom at a non-Warriors game is going to go live at 11:30 tomorrow. But I think that he will be going tonight. So, yeah, I'm looking at his thing right now. People are like, the 13th? Is that you, Tolbert? So I'm looking at his thing right now. He'll be on any minute now, Tom Tolbert. So Bay Area Sports Collective, you'll get Tommy's thoughts on the game tonight because obviously he called the game with Tim Roy on the Warriors Radio Network. So Tom will give you his viewpoint from, I was going to say courtside, but the radio guys don't do courtside anymore. It's from level 1. But Tommy will give you his insights as a former player from his perch. So he'll give you that as well. And again, 117-110, 3-pointers do the Warriors in -24. Anthony Edwards show tonight. Third quarter, 39-17. Julius Randle, again, coming off a triple-double, had 31. Whereas at times couldn't shoot it in the ocean. Defense was a major problem, especially in the third quarter, like we said. And some of the guys, I think, just got gassed. I think Jimmy Butler gassed, only played 34 minutes. Like I said, maybe that was Steve Kerr, maybe that was Jimmy Butler. I thought Kerr should have had more urgency for this game, especially given the fact that you just need to win one of these, and then you could have survived potentially for Steph in a game 6. Will they play him in a game 5? That is going to be the question over the next less than 48 hours, and we'll find that out. So there you go. Thanks for hanging out. 117-110. Wish I had better news. Tomorrow we'll get all into everything, not only NBA-wise, but the lottery and what's going on in the NBA playoffs. Always Niners news with the rookie camps and everything going around. Giants news. We got some Giants news for you, and then just weird stuff that always happens, plus random things, and the Sweet Clean Family Caboose Pistol. We'll make sure that we do that for you at 8 a.m. tomorrow on John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Thanks tonight for watching on X at John Lund Radio. Any questions, comments, or thoughts, make sure that you hit them right under here in the comment section, or I always check them at John Lund Radio on X. Everybody have a great night. Tom Tolbert is next in moments on the Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. So make sure that you go over there, subscribe, and watch Tommy as well. Everybody have a great night. Again, Warriors lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves 117-110, are down 3-1 in their second round series. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 8 a.m. on John Lund.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!